She was already running when the scream tore out of her throat. Bare feet slapped against frozen earth, sharp stones biting into her skin, but she didn't slow down. She couldn't. The forest swallowed her whole, moonlight spilling through twisted branches, silver and cold, like it was watching her fall apart in real time. Her lungs burned. Her ankle throbbed where blood streamed down, warm against the night air. Still, she ran. Wolves howled behind her. Too close. Close enough that she couldn't tell if they were hunting her, or chasing the same truth she was trying to escape. Fog crept low along the ground, thick and icy, curling around her legs like grasping hands. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the forest itself wanted her to stop. To turn around. To face what she had seen. The moon hung full above the trees, but dull, muted, as though even it couldn't bear to shine on what had happened. Minutes ago, seconds ago, it was all she'd known. The moon pool. Sacred. Untouched. A place only bonded mates were allowed to enter under the full moon. And in that water, glowing silver, ancient, alive, she had seen them. The Alpha King. And her sister. Their bodies close. Too close. His hands at her sister's waist. Her sister's head thrown back in surrender. The water rippling with power that didn't belong to lies, but to bonds. To promises meant to last a lifetime. Her heart cracked open right there at the edge of the pool. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet, final break. She had stumbled back, breath caught in her throat, every childhood memory rewriting itself in an instant. Every look her sister ever gave her. Every silence. Every secret. It all made sense now. A sharp pain sliced through her ankle as she misstepped, but she bit back the cry and kept moving. Pain was easier than betrayal. Pain made sense. Inside her chest, something twisted. Heat surged under her skin, silver-hot, violent, alive. Her power woke up like it always did when she was afraid. Or angry. Or heartbroken. It surged through her veins, crackling, begging to be released. Her bones ached. Her vision blurred. For one terrifying moment, she almost shifted. Her spine arched. Her breath hitched. The wolf inside her slammed against her ribs, snarling to get out, to fight, to burn the world that had just taken everything from her. No, she whispered, choking on the word. She couldn't lose control. Not here. Not now. They already feared her power. This silver fire in her blood, was the reason she'd never belonged. The reason elders watched her too closely. The reason whispers followed her through every pack gathering. Too much. Too dangerous. Too wrong. Branches clawed at her hair, as she burst through a clearing. The howls came again, closer this time. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might shatter her ribs. She didn't know where she was going. Only that she couldn't stay. Because if she stopped running, she would remember the way the Alpha King had touched her sister like it was sacred. She would remember the way the moon pool had glowed brighter for them. She would remember that she had never once been chosen. A tear slipped free, hot against the cold night, but she wiped it away with the back of her hand. Crying was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not when the forest was alive with eyes. Not when her own power threatened to betray her at any second. The fog thickened, swallowing her knees, her calves, her fear. The moon flickered behind clouds, dimming further, like it was ashamed to witness her humiliation. Somewhere deep inside her, a quiet voice whispered that this wasn't just heartbreak. This was the beginning of something far worse. The ground trembled beneath her feet, not from the wolves, but from the power surging inside her, desperate to be acknowledged. To be claimed. She stumbled again, caught herself on a tree, chest heaving. For a split second, she considered letting go. Letting the fire take over. Letting the world burn the way her heart already had. But then she ran again. Because she was still alive. Because she refused to break. And because if this world was built to crush girls like her, then maybe it was time it learned what she could become. If you love dark secrets, forbidden bonds, and heroines who refuse to break, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because once you enter this world, there's no turning back. She didn't feel the ground disappear beneath her feet. One moment she was running, lungs screaming, heart splitting, and the next, the forest tilted sideways. Her ankle gave out. The world lurched. Cold panic flared as she pitched forward, hands reaching for nothing. Then arms closed around her. Strong. Unyielding. Warm. She sucked in a sharp breath and twisted instinctively, nails scraping against leather, ready to fight, to scream, to bite if she had to. But the grip didn't tighten. It stared at her. Held her upright like she weighed nothing at all. Easy, a voice said, low and controlled. Too calm for the chaos around them. I've got you. Her head snapped up. Moonlight cut through the fog just enough for her to see his face. And everything inside her went very, very still. The Alpha King. The same man she had watched in the moon pool only moments ago. The same man whose hands had been on her sister's body like they belonged there. The same man whose presence now pressed against her skin, overwhelming and impossible to ignore. Her breath hitched. Rage flared so hot it nearly drowned out the pain. You, she whispered, the words scraping out of her throat like a curse. His jaw tightened, but he didn't let go. His eyes, dark, sharp, ancient, searched her face with an intensity that made her chest ache. Like he was memorizing her. Like he had been doing it for years. He said her name. Quietly. Not as a question. Not as a demand. As if it had lived in his mouth for a long time. The sound of it from him, intimate, deliberate, sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with the cold. Her anger tangled with something dangerous. Something she didn't want to feel. You know me, she said, disbelief cracking through her voice. I do, he replied. Better than you think. The howl surged closer, snapping her back into the moment. Shapes moved through the fog, wolves, fast and hungry, eyes glinting with intent. Hunters or witnesses, she still didn't know. Maybe both. The Alpha King turned slightly, placing himself in front of her without asking. His body became a wall, solid, immovable. Power rolled off him in waves, thick and suffocating, bending the air around them. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He simply lifted his head and let his dominance unfurl. The forest responded. The wolves skidded to a halt at the edge of the clearing, snarling, hackles raised, but they didn't advance. One by one, they lowered their heads. Fear rippled through the pack like a physical thing. Then they retreated, melting back into the fog, tails tucked, howls swallowed by the trees. Silence fell hard. Her heart was still racing, but now it was racing for a different reason. She shoved against his chest, finally breaking free. Don't touch me. He let her go immediately. No resistance. No argument. That somehow made it worse. Why, she demanded, voice shaking. Why are you here? His gaze didn't flinch. Because you were in danger. A bitter laugh tore out of her. That's funny. You didn't seem too concerned about danger back at the moon pool. Something dark flickered across his face, guilt, maybe. Or anger. Or both. It vanished before she could be sure. That wasn't what it looked like, he said. Don't, she snapped. Don't insult me by lying. The silver heat under her skin pulsed again, restless, reacting to him the way it always did. Drawn. Provoked. Furious. She hated that her body remembered him, his presence, his power, even now. He took a step closer, then stopped, like he was afraid of pushing too far. I never meant for you to see that. Her chest tightened painfully. But I did. Yes. His voice dropped. And I won't pretend it didn't matter. The honesty in that cracked something open inside her. Just a fracture, but enough for everything she'd been holding back to press against the surface. You chose her, she said, quietly now. You always do. His eyes sharpened. You think this is about choosing. Isn't it? Her hands curled into fists. It always has been. For a moment, the Alpha King looked less like a ruler, and more like a man caught in a trap of his own making. The fog curled around them, the moon dimmed overhead, and the space between their bodies felt charged, volatile. I've been watching you for a long time, he said at last. Her breath caught. That doesn't make me feel safer. I didn't mean it to. His gaze softened, just slightly. I meant it to be the truth. The admission landed heavy. Too heavy. Questions swarmed her mind, why, how, since when, but none of them felt safe to ask. Her ankle throbbed viciously. The adrenaline was fading, leaving exhaustion in its wake. She swayed, just barely, and cursed herself for it. He noticed. Of course he did. Before she could protest, he reached out again, not grabbing this time, just hovering, offering support without forcing it. You won't make it far like this. And whose fault is that? She shot back. A muscle jumped in his jaw. Mine, he said. The word settled between them, raw and unguarded. She looked at him then, really looked. At the weight he carried. At the restraint in his stance. At the way his eyes never left her, like letting her out of his sight would be a mistake he couldn't afford. She didn't trust him. She didn't forgive him. But the night was closing in, her power was spiraling, and every instinct told her that whatever he wasn't here to kill her. Not yet. As he stood there in the moonlight, Alpha King, secret keeper, possible enemy, she realized the most terrifying truth of all. She had no idea whether he was her rescuer or the beginning of her end. She stayed just out of his reach as they moved through the trees, every step sending pain up her leg, every breath dragging memories she'd buried clawing back to the surface. The forest blurred, and without meaning to, she slipped backward in time. She had always been the other one. The quiet child standing half a step behind her sister. The one elders watched too closely. The one mothers pulled their children away from without saying why. Her sister laughed easily, shifted cleanly, obeyed every rule without ever seeming to try. The pack loved her for it. They built their hopes around her like she was the future itself. And then there was her. The night it happened, she was 8. Too young to understand fear, too young to hide it well. The moon had been bright, playful, harmless, or so she thought. Until the fire came. Silver flame burst from her small hands without warning. Not red. Not orange. Silver. Alive. Hungry. It didn't burn the way fire was supposed to. It sang. It moved like it knew her. The air had screamed. Elders rushed in, eyes wide, voices shaking. Someone dragged her sister away first. Someone always did. They put the fire out eventually. They always did. But they never looked at her the same again. Silver flame, they whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. Ancient magic. Cursed blood. The kind tied to old extinction myths, to packs erased from history because they'd grown too powerful, too wild, too uncontrollable. They never banished her outright. That would have been mercy. Instead, they kept her close and made sure she felt alone. She trained harder than anyone. Followed every rule. Learned to swallow her questions, her anger, her fear. But it didn't matter. When something went wrong, eyes turned to her. When leadership spoke of danger, they glanced her way. When the alpha's attention passed over the circle of young wolves, it never stopped on her. Her sister, meanwhile, was chosen again and again. Chosen to stand beside the alpha at ceremonies. Chosen to train with him. Chosen to be seen. Protected. Loved. She learned early that hope was a liability. Trust was a mistake. And alphas, no matter how calm their voices, no matter how gentle their hands, always chose the pack over girls like her. Always. That vow had hardened inside her years ago: never trust an alpha. Never believe in promises made under moonlight. Never confuse power with protection. And yet, she glanced at him as they walked. The Alpha King moved with quiet control, every step deliberate, every sense alert. He kept just enough distance to respect her space, but not enough to abandon her. His presence pressed against her awareness, steady and infuriating and grounding. It unsettled her. Her power stirred again, not violently this time, but curiously. Like it recognized him. Like it had been waiting. She hated that more than anything. They stopped near a fallen tree, the fog thinning just enough to reveal the scar along his jaw, the tension in his shoulders. He crouched, eyes on her ankle, but didn't touch her. "You should rest," he said. She laughed softly, the sound brittle. "You sound just like them." His gaze lifted. "Like who?" "The elders," she replied. "Always deciding what I should do. What's best for me. What I can handle." Something flickered in his eyes, recognition, maybe. Regret. "I'm not them," he said. She met his gaze, silver heat simmering beneath her skin. "You're worse," she whispered. "Because they feared me. You watched me." The truth of it hung heavy between them. Her chest tightened, but she didn't look away. She had spent her life being small so others could feel safe. She wouldn't do it now. Still, she felt it, the pull. The dangerous, unwanted pull toward him. Toward the way he listened. Toward the fact that he hadn't dismissed her pain or denied her anger. Toward the way he hadn't once told her she was too much. That scared her more than the wolves. Because wanting him meant risking everything she had built to survive. She shifted her weight, breath unsteady, and forced her voice to remain calm. "If you're going to finish what the pack started," she said, "do it now." His expression hardened, not with cruelty, but with resolve. "I didn't save you to destroy you." She searched his face for the lie and didn't find it. That didn't mean she trusted him. But for the first time in a long time, she felt seen, not as a weapon, not as a threat, not as a mistake, but as a person carrying too much fire for a world afraid of being burned. And if this story of dark secrets, forbidden bonds, and women who refuse to break is pulling you in, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because once you enter this world, there's no turning back. They reached the moon pool just before the fog thinned completely. The ruins rose out of the forest like a memory the world had tried to bury, stone columns split and leaning, carved with symbols worn smooth by time. This place was older than pack borders, older than alpha law, older than the stories told to keep wolves obedient. Even the air felt different here. Thicker. Waiting. She felt it the moment she crossed the threshold. Her breath caught. Her steps slowed without her meaning to. Something deep in her chest answered the place with a low, aching pull, like a second heartbeat waking up after centuries of sleep. The Alpha King stopped short behind her. The moment her bare foot touched the stone rim of the pool, the runes carved into the ruins flared to life. Silver light crawled along the ancient markings, spreading fast, hungry, beautiful. Not harsh. Not violent. Familiar. The same shade as the fire in her blood. The same impossible color that had haunted her since childhood. She staggered back instinctively, panic flaring. I didn't do that. I know, he said, voice low, reverent despite himself. The water stirred. No wind touched it. No hand disturbed it. And yet the surface rippled outward in perfect circles, each one timed to her heartbeat. Slow. Fast. Slower again. As if the pool itself was listening to her body. As if it recognized her. Her chest tightened painfully. No, she whispered. This place does that to everyone. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. The forest leaned in. The trees creaked softly, leaves trembling though the air was still. A sound passed through the ruins, not quite a voice, not quite a breath, but it wrapped around her spine and sank straight into her bones. The child of the flame returns. Her knees nearly buckled. She shook her head hard, as if she could dislodge the sound. You heard that too, she said, needing confirmation that she wasn't losing her mind. I did, the Alpha King replied. His eyes never left her. And so will anyone with blood old enough to remember. Footsteps echoed over stone. She turned sharply, power flaring, only to see an elder emerge from the shadows, one she recognized, though age had bent his back and silvered his hair. He moved slowly, like someone stepping into a confession long overdue. You were not meant to come here like this, the elder said. His gaze dropped to her glowing hands, to the runes blazing brighter with every breath she took. But prophecy rarely asks permission. Her laugh came out raw. I don't believe in prophecies. You don't have to, he replied gently. They believe in you. He knelt by the pool, placing his palm against the stone as if in apology. There have always been two paths spoken of in the old tongue, he continued. One we prayed would never awaken. She backed away, dread curling tight in her stomach. Stop. The one marked by silver flame, the elder said, voice trembling now. Born between devotion and fear. Rejected by her own so the world might be spared her fire. The Alpha King's breath hitched. She felt suddenly very small. 8 years old again. Surrounded by elders who wouldn't touch her. What does it say? She asked, barely audible. The elder met her eyes. That she will either crown the true Alpha, or burn the throne to ash. Silence crashed down. Her first instinct was laughter. Sharp. Disbelieving. You're talking about me like I'm a weapon. No, the Alpha King said quietly. They are talking about you like you're a choice. She turned on him, fury snapping through the fear. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be born wrong. I didn't ask for this power, or your throne, or your ancient stories. The silver light flared brighter, reacting to her anger, licking up her arms like living flame. I am not your destiny, she said. And I am not your salvation. Her voice broke on the last word. Because deep down, under the anger and denial, there was something worse than fear. There was doubt. What if they were right? What if everything she had been running from, every rejection, every silence, every watchful stare, had been leading here all along? She looked at the Alpha King, at the weight on his shoulders, at the crown he carried whether he wanted it or not. I am too broken, she whispered. Too hated. You think a pack that feared me as a child would ever follow me now? He stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. They don't get to decide who you are. She shook her head, tears burning. They already did. The pool pulsed once, hard. The ruins dimmed, then went dark, as if retreating, as if waiting. The forest exhaled. And as the silver light faded, one truth remained, heavy and inescapable. Whether she accepted it or not, the myth had awakened. And the world would not forget her again. The air shifted before the first voice broke the silence. She felt it, the way the forest tightened, the way the ground seemed to brace itself. Power collided with power as figures stepped out from the shadows, one after another, until the ruins were no longer empty. Rival alphas. Council elders. Wolves with polished authority and sharpened suspicion in their eyes. They had come fast. Too fast. Someone had summoned them. Her spine straightened instinctively, silver heat stirring beneath her skin, not in fear this time, but in warning. What is this? One alpha demanded, his gaze snapping from the glowing stones to her bare feet on sacred ground. Why is she here? Another didn't bother with questions. You brought a cursed bloodline into the moon pool ruins, he spat, eyes burning into her like accusation alone could scorch her out of existence. Have you lost your mind? She opened her mouth to speak, but the words never made it out. Look at her, a councilwoman snapped. The fire. The signs. This is exactly how the stories begin. Stories written by cowards, the Alpha King said sharply. The tension cracked. She seduced you, someone shouted. That's how these things always go. A pretty face. A dangerous power. Her breath hitched. The words landed hard, not because they were new, but because they were familiar. She had heard them her whole life, dressed in different tones, sharpened by different mouths. Before she could react, her sister stepped forward. Tears streaked her face, shining in the moonlight, perfectly placed. I trusted her, she said, voice trembling. I brought her close because she's my sister. And she betrayed me. The world tilted. Her chest went hollow. She turned slowly, disbelief freezing her veins. Her sister wouldn't meet her eyes. She knew what she was doing, her sister continued. She always wanted what wasn't hers. The silver flame surged violently this time, reacting to the lie like a living thing. The ruins hummed beneath her feet. That's enough, the Alpha King said, stepping forward. All eyes swung to him. This gathering is over, he commanded. Leave. Silence followed. Heavy. Disbelieving. You would protect her, an elder asked quietly. After what the prophecy says. This is not prophecy, another alpha snapped. This is treason. They turned on him then, voices overlapping, fury rising. You will tear the pack apart. You're choosing her over your people. You're choosing chaos. The Alpha King's jaw clenched. He looked at the elders. At the rival alphas. At the wolves who would follow his word into fire, or turn on him if he failed them. Then he looked at her. For one fragile moment, she believed he would step fully to her side. believed he would choose her. He didn't. Not completely. He hesitated. Just long enough. That pause cut deeper than any accusation. Deeper than her sister's betrayal. Deeper than the years of silence and fear. Because hesitation meant doubt. And doubt, she had learned, was just another way of saying no. Her hands curled into fists, nails biting into her palms. The silver flame retreated, not extinguished, but banked, waiting. She took a step back. Then another. "I won't be your war," she said, her voice steady despite the fracture spreading through her chest. "And I won't beg for space in a world that only sees me when it needs something to fear." The Alpha King turned sharply. "Wait." She didn't. She walked away from the ruins, from the glowing stones, from the prophecy pressing at her spine. Each step hurt. Each breath felt like swallowing glass. Behind her, voices rose again, angry, relieved, triumphant. No one followed. That was the final truth. The forest welcomed her back into its shadows as she crossed the threshold, moonlight breaking across her shoulders one last time. She didn't run now. She didn't need to. Her heart was shattered, yes, but something harder was forming in its place. Resolve. If the world would only meet her with fear, then she would learn to survive without its approval. And if dark secrets, forbidden bonds, and heroines who refuse to break are the stories that pull at something deep inside you, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because once you enter this world, there's no turning back. The cave breathed quietly around her. Firelight flickered against stone, throwing long shadows that stretched and shrank like restless thoughts. She sat near the wall, ankle wrapped tight, hands held close to the warmth, but never quite touching it. Outside, the night pressed in heavy and watchful, but in here, time felt suspended, like the world was holding its breath. She didn't hear him approach. She felt him. The air shifted. The fire bent slightly, flame leaning toward the entrance, as if pulled by his presence. Her spine stiffened, every instinct screaming at once, run, fight, burn, don't turn around. She turned anyway. He stood at the mouth of the cave without his crown, without guards, without the weight of ceremony clinging to him. Just a man in the dark, shoulders tense, eyes tired in a way power could never hide. "You shouldn't have followed me," she said softly. "I know," he replied. "But I couldn't let you disappear thinking every lie they fed you was true." She looked back to the fire. "You already let me walk away." The words landed harder than she intended. He absorbed them without flinching. "I hesitated," he said. "And that failure is mine to carry." Silence settled between them, thick but not hostile. He took a step inside, then another, stopping far enough away to give her space. The restraint mattered. She noticed it more than she wanted to. "The moon pool," he said carefully, "was never a bond." Her fingers curled. "I saw what I saw." "You saw a ritual," he corrected. "One designed to bind loyalty, not love. Your sister agreed to it because the council needed leverage over me." She finally looked at him then, anger flaring sharp. "And you let them?" "Yes." His voice was steady, but his eyes weren't. "Because every path I take is watched. Because the throne doesn't belong to me, it owns me." The fire popped softly. "I've been trapped between prophecy and politics for years," he continued. "Every choice framed as sacrifice. Every refusal punished. I convinced myself that obedience would keep others safe." Her laugh came out hollow. "It never does." "No," he agreed. "It only spreads the damage." The honesty cracked something in her chest. She shifted, pain flashing through her ankle, and hissed under her breath. He moved instinctively, then stopped himself, hands clenching at his sides. "Let me help," he said quietly. "You already did," she replied. "Then you stopped." His jaw tightened. "I won't make that mistake again." She studied him in the firelight, searching for the alpha beneath the man, for the lie beneath the confession. What she found unsettled her more. Regret. Not the polished kind meant to soothe, but the kind that sits heavy and changes the shape of a person. "You don't know what it costs me to be close to anyone," she said. "Everyone I love gets hurt. My parents. My pack. My sister, no matter what she's done. I don't want that blood on my hands again." He lowered himself slowly to the stone across from her, keeping his distance. "And yet you carry it anyway." Her breath caught. "Not because you cause destruction," he added, "but because others fear what they don't understand." The firelight danced across his face, softening the edges, revealing the man beneath the title. She felt the pull again, dangerous, unwanted, undeniable. "Don't," she whispered. "If you see me like that, I won't survive it." He didn't move. Didn't reach. His voice dropped, raw and unguarded. "I see you. All of you. And it doesn't frighten me." Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She leaned forward before she could stop herself. He did the same. The space between them shrank, charged with everything unspoken. Her breath mingled with his. The world narrowed to firelight, stone, and the ache twisting low in her chest. Just 1 inch more. The ground trembled. Not violently, warningly. The fire flared silver for a split second, then settled. The cave walls hummed, ancient and alive, like something far older had shifted in its sleep. They froze. Her power stirred, not wild this time, but alert. Listening. From somewhere deep in the earth came a low pulse, steady, deliberate, as if destiny itself had taken notice of their closeness. He drew back first, breathing hard. "It's not done with you," he said. "With us?" She swallowed, steadying herself, heart racing. "Then it doesn't get to decide what we feel." A faint, sad smile touched his mouth. "No. But it will try." They sat there in the firelight, not touching, not retreating, balanced on the edge of something fragile and dangerous. Trust. And for the first time, she wondered, not without fear, what it would mean to let him earn it. They didn't even let her heal. Dawn never came. Instead, horns sounded through the forest, old, sharp calls that cut through stone and sleep alike. By the time she reached the clearing, leaning hard on her injured ankle, the council was already assembled. Elders in ceremonial cloaks. Alphas from neighboring territories. Faces carved from fear pretending to be authority. They had decided. She felt it before a single word was spoken. The Alpha King stood near the center, shoulders rigid, eyes locked forward like he was bracing for impact. He didn't look at her when she arrived. That hurt more than she expected. An elder stepped forward, voice ringing cold and loud. "We can no longer deny what the signs have revealed." The clearing went silent. "She is the one named in the old prophecy," he continued. "The silver flame. The world ender. The destroyer who will burn pack and throne alike." A murmur rolled through the crowd, fear swelling, feeding itself. Her stomach dropped. Not because she didn't know this was coming, but because hearing it spoken aloud made it real in a way she couldn't outrun. "She's lying," someone shouted. "No," another snapped. "Look at her. Look at the ruins." The moon pool awakened for her. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Words felt useless in a room that had already made her a monster. Then her sister stepped forward. Her heart stuttered. Her sister's eyes were red, her expression torn just enough to be convincing. She clasped her hands together like she was holding herself upright by sheer will. "I didn't want to believe it," her sister said, voice shaking. "But everything the elders say is true. I saw it. I felt it. Her power is different. Dangerous." Each word landed like a blade. "I tried to protect her," her sister went on. "I tried to keep her close so she wouldn't be alone. But she's slipping. And if we don't stop this now, she'll destroy us all." The clearing erupted. Fear turned sharp. Angry. Hungry. She stared at her sister, something in her finally going still. Not breaking, settling. Understanding, at last, what jealousy dressed as love could do. Her gaze found the Alpha King. He stood frozen. She waited. For him to speak. For him to deny it. For him to say her name the way he had in the forest, like it mattered. Seconds stretched thin. Then, finally, he moved. He stepped to her side. The crowd gasped. The elders hissed. Her heart leapt painfully. Too late. The damage was already done. The doubt had been seen. The hesitation remembered. "You stand with her?" an Alpha demanded. "I do," the Alpha King said, voice firm now, but heavy with regret. It wasn't enough. Because standing beside her after the blade had already fallen didn't stop the bleeding. Something inside her snapped, not violently, not wildly, but cleanly. Fine. If this was the story they needed her to be. The ground beneath her feet cracked. Silver fire erupted from her skin, no longer restrained, no longer apologetic. It poured out in blinding arcs, searing through the air, splitting stone, forcing the council back in terror. Runes carved into the earth flared and shattered. The trees bowed outward as if pushed by an invisible storm. She didn't scream. She breathed. And with that breath came power so old it felt borrowed from the bones of the world itself. "No more," she said, her voice carrying far beyond the clearing. "I will not be your warning. I will not be your sacrifice." Her sister cried out. Elders shielded their faces. Even the Alpha King staggered, eyes wide, not with fear of her, but with the realization of what he had helped unleash. She looked at him one last time. Not in anger. In farewell. Then she stepped backward, and the night swallowed her whole. The silver fire collapsed inward, leaving scorched earth and stunned silence behind. By the time anyone moved, she was gone. No scent. No trail. No trace, but the truth they could no longer bury. That they had made their choice. And lost her forever. If dark secrets, forbidden bonds, and heroines who refuse to break leave a mark on you, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because once you enter this world, there's no turning back. The night tore open. Deep beneath the ruins, something ancient stirred, something that had been waiting far longer than prophecy ever warned. The moon pool shuddered, its silver surface darkening, churning like a wound reopening. Stones screamed as cracks raced outward. The sacred water drained fast, pulled down into a yawning hollow that reeked of old hunger. It rose with a sound like breath dragged through bone. Not a wolf. Not a man. A shape formed from shadow and memory, eyes glowing with stolen light. Its presence pressed down on the clearing, suffocating, intimate, familiar in the worst way. Elders staggered. Alphas fell to one knee. Power, once revered, was ripped from their blood, siphoned greedily into the thing's core. An ancient force. A parasite of crowns. It fed on alpha bloodlines. Had always fed. Every throne, every ritual, every sacrifice had kept it alive. The Alpha King cried out as the thing latched onto him, shadow tendrils piercing skin, drinking deep. His strength bled into the earth. The council screamed orders that meant nothing now. There was no control left to pretend at. Then the air changed. Silver light cut through the darkness, not explosive, not wild, but focused. Certain. She stepped out of the forest like a remembered truth. The world felt her before it saw her. Her hair lifted, threaded with light. Her eyes burned silver, calm and unafraid. The flame no longer fought her, it wrapped around her like a crown, shaping itself to her will. Every step she took rewrote the ground beneath her feet, ancient runes answering her presence without resistance. She was no longer running. The shadow recoiled. "You cannot claim what was never yours," she said, voice layered, hers and others, past and present braided together. The ancestors rose behind her. Not as ghosts. As memory. As strength carried forward. Their voices moved through her veins, steadying, guiding, reminding her of every woman and wolf raised to keep monsters like this alive. The moon pool collapsed completely, stone folding inward as if bowing. The parasite screamed, a sound of rage and starvation, as the silver flame surged, not outward, but inward, cutting the tether between predator and prey. She moved without hesitation. The fire obeyed. It carved through shadow, sealing cracks, burning away corruption without touching what was innocent. The ancient force writhed, shrinking, stripped of stolen power. The ground shook, but it was no longer warning, it was release. The Alpha King collapsed. She caught him before he hit the stone. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. She looked down at him, this man of crowns and compromises, regret etched deep into his bones. She poured power into him, not as gift, not as submission, but as choice. Silver flame flowed from her palms, sealing wounds, restoring breath. He lived. When he opened his eyes, he found her standing over him, radiant and untouchable. "You came back," he whispered. "I never left," she replied. "I just stopped shrinking." The last of the shadow burned away, leaving only scorched earth and stunned silence. The elders stared. The alphas trembled, not in fear of destruction, but in awe of truth revealed too late. She turned to them slowly. "I am not your sacrifice," she said. "I am not your curse. And I will not kneel to a throne built on fear." The silver flame flared once, final, definitive, then settled into her skin like a living mark of sovereignty. She stepped back from the Alpha King, offering him her hand, not to rule beside him, not to stand beneath him, but to meet him eye to eye. What he chose next would be his own. And for the first time in her life, so would she. She stood where the moon pool had been, between ruin and rebirth, silver light breathing softly beneath her skin. The night no longer rejected her, but it did not claim her either. Wolves watched from the shadows, uncertain whether to bow, follow, or flee. Power had shifted, and everyone could feel it. The old rules no longer fit the shape of what she had become. Behind her, the Alpha King rose slowly, steadied by his own strength this time. He did not reach for her. He did not command. He waited. The distance between them pulsed with things unsaid, trust cracked open, but not yet healed, love sharpened by fear, loyalty no longer guaranteed by blood or crown. She felt it all. The pull of the wild calling her forward. The ache of belonging tugging her back. If she stepped into the forest, she would be free, unbound by counsel, prophecy, or throne. If she stayed, She would change the world that once tried to destroy her. Either path would cost her something. Either choice would mark her forever. Her sister's face flickered through her mind. The council's accusations. The way love had nearly been used as a leash. She inhaled, steady, grounded, no longer afraid of the fire inside her. It was not rage. It was truth. She turned, just enough to look at him. Not the king. The man who had stood too late, yet still stood. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the world held its breath. He did not ask her to stay. He did not ask her to leave. Whatever came next would be her decision alone. And somehow, that was the most powerful vow either of them could make. The wolves waited. So did fate. And somewhere in the dark, the future shifted its weight, listening for her answer. Would you have feared her? Or followed her into fire? If this story burned in your chest, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because here, destiny howls, love scars, and heroines rise. The forest exhaled quietly, smoke curling from the scorched ruins of the moon pool, silver embers drifting like fleeting ghosts across the darkened clearing. Wolves lingered at the edges, uncertain, ears twitching, breaths shallow. The night seemed to pause, listening, holding itself against what had just been unleashed. She had stepped forward, powerful, untouchable, yet human in the way only fire-forged souls could be. Every instinct told her to keep moving, to vanish into the wild that had always been her only sanctuary. And yet, the world she had left, broken, fearful, unworthy, still called her name in whispers, in echoes she could not ignore. The Alpha King remained where she had left him, kneeling only in awe, not submission. His eyes tracked her, as she vanished into the trees, the silver flame within her fading to a soft glow that hinted at storms still dormant. His chest rose and fell in quiet reckoning, even he felt the tremor of power that would ripple far beyond these woods. But as the ashes settled and the wind carried away the last flickers of ruin, the air beneath the ruins shifted. A subtle ripple ran through the ground, unnoticed by most, but palpable to those attuned to the old magics. Something moved beneath stone and earth, a shadow curling in anticipation, patient, relentless. A voice, low and chilling, whispered from that darkness. She was only the first flame. The words cut through the night, laced with promise and warning. The shadows recoiled, then settled, as if the world itself had been told a secret too heavy to ignore. A sudden rustle, faint as a heartbeat, suggested the presence of others, eyes watching, waiting, something ancient awakened by the silver fire she had wielded. Not all threats had been destroyed, not all prophecies fulfilled. And somewhere deep beneath the forest, the next force that had hungered for power stirred, listening, calculating, readying for the inevitable return. She was gone, but the fire she carried had left marks. The air itself smelled different, charged, electric, expectant. The moon pool, though shattered, had left a wound that would never heal completely. And the wolves, those who had survived the chaos, felt it instinctively, the pack's story was not finished. This was only the opening move. High above, the moon shifted behind clouds, casting fleeting shadows across the blackened stones. A distant howl rose from the far reaches of the forest, low and full of promise, echoing off hollow trunks. It was neither welcome nor warning, it was an announcement. The world had been altered. Her fire had been seen. Her power was remembered. And still, somewhere beneath the ruins, the shadow pulsed again. Stronger this time. Hungrier. The whispered words lingered in the minds of those who had survived. She was only the first flame. The wind carried them far and wide, a prophecy on its own. Cut to black. Silence. If this story burned in your chest, If the pool of silver fire and forbidden bonds stirred something inside you, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because here, destiny howls, love scars, and heroines rise. The night waits. The next flame waits. And the story has only just begun.